Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, Lore and Fray, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. So the last 10 years have been kind of interesting because we've seen a lot of big video game franchises from the 90s and 2000s, the ones that fanboys used to weaponize against Nintendo. You know, the Final Fantasies, the Metal Gear Solids, the Mass Effects, the Dragon Ages, the Halos, the Gears of War, the Fables, the countless, forgettable, boring, not even mid, below mid, subpar, just below average, just pure trash IPs that have been weaponized against Nintendo over the years. We've seen a lot of these franchises just fall off the wayside. They're gone. They're over. They're never coming back, regardless of how often Microsoft tries to tell us that Perfect Dark is going to be a triple A, a quadruple A game. They legit said that. Fable is getting produced. Halo is coming back. We have Game Pass. PlayStation has this and this and this and this. Regardless of what these people say, we are in this era where the classic video game IPs, the ones that people use to prove that Nintendo was for kids and that the real consoles, the ones for men, were on other platforms, Xbox and PlayStation, all of those franchises have fallen by the wayside. They're gone. They're irrelevant. They can't compete. They're done. So we've entered a weird kind of transitionary period where people are trying to do everything they possibly can to continue to pretend that Nintendo has any competition at all. So, of course, the most notable example is, of course, FromSoftware and their Dark Souls IP and how people are pretending it had any chance of surpassing Zelda at any point in its relevancy. You know, Dark Souls is the big one, but there are a handful of other ones as well. And I think one of the go-to examples is Devil May Cry, right? Devil May Cry is, of course, a franchise that's been, weaponized against Bayonetta, but I think if we let this go unchecked, Devil May Cry will eventually grow to the point where you'll see people making weird comparisons about how it's better than Luigi's Mansion, better than Pikmin, better than anything else Nintendo makes, better than Astral Chain, I'm sure. We're already seeing that to a certain extent, right? I've already seen people try to say that the original Resident Evil remake is better than Luigi's Mansion and use that to weaponize against Nintendo. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that we could compare completely different genres of games in order to present a narrative. But the thing is, right now, with Kojima out of the picture, with the big golden child, Hideo Kojima, being retired from games and not making anything else, we'll get no more Metal Gear Solid games, no more new IPs, nothing from him. Death Stranding is a failure. People are desperately trying to find the new thing to get excited about. And right now, it seems like the narrative seems to be shifting towards hyping up Miyazaki and hyping up Itsuno, the FromSoftware and the Devil May Cry guy, as viable, relevant competitors to Nintendo. These are the guys that are going to lead the next generation against Nintendo. These are the guys who are going to produce the next generation of Nintendo destroying software. Dragon's Dogma 2, Devil May Cry 5. Elden Ring, even now you're seeing a lot of people saying the DLC for Elden Ring is going to be better than Tears of the Kingdom, which is laughable in and of itself. But it is, it's absurd, seeing just the lengths that people are going to try and push this narrative that Nintendo is just can't compete with these guys. It doesn't ever end. Every generation or so, we see new IPs introduced. They're hyped up. They fall. Nintendo beats them. And we have new ones take their place. I would argue that FromSoftware is already in their downward spiral. They have been eventually people are going to get tired of the Elden Ring formula. They're just they got tired of the Dark Souls one and the second. There have already been signs that FromSoftware can't really innovate or do anything new with their IPs. So again, FromSoftware is already on the way out. I'm sure Itsuno is already on the way out, but it's just, what are they going to hype up next? So many people, who even remembers, Pragmata? I've seen people on, 4chan bring up, ooh, Pragmata. Who cares? Oh, Monster Hunter World 2 is going to destroy you because it's not on Nintendo. It won't be on Nintendo because Capcom was going to treat this like a real Monster Hunter game. You have... it's a dying narrative. It really is. It's gotten, so much... It's become really diminished over the past several decades, but the past few decades. But it is still very much prevalent. And I, as a creator, as a content creator, as a fan of Nintendo, like I just can't stand for it. You know, I can't respect how these people constantly try and pretend as if there's like anything these no-name companies, developers, franchises can do to destroy Nintendo. You know, like I've seen so many videos talking about Bayonetta 3, Astral Train, how those games are infinitely flawed compared to like the perfection of Elden Ring and Devil May Cry 5, and it's really not going to stick. I would argue it hasn't stick. I think Astral Chain has actually left more of an impact than a lot of people are willing to admit. Like Bayonetta 3 was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, right? You know, I think the Devil May Cry's days are numbered, and people don't want to admit it. They are still in this phase of worshiping these creators, worshiping the ground they walk on in the hopes that someday their savior will come and destroy Nintendo. And it simply is never going to happen.